Welcome, welcome, welcome to Men-Talk 2. This our 21st episode. And today we have joining with us someone I have known 20 plus years or almost 30 years, I believe.
About that.
So about 30, just about 30 years. And I'll introduce him to you and he will tell us something about himself. So let me introduce you to Mark Haynes. Mark, welcome.
Thank you, Akil. It is a pleasure and thank you for inviting me to this program. So, let me share a bit about myself. Firstly, I am a very open minded individual. I am a East boy, so born and raised in Tacarigua. I have been very much involved in community with terms of my uncle was a footballer. Some people may know him, Ulrich Buggy Haynes. So, of course, sports has been an important part of my family growing up. But apart from that, I am a member. I'm the second of three children, and also, on a more professional level, I have been a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service as a firefighter. Last Friday, actually, on the 4th of April, was my anniversary for 12 years in the service. I also am
Congrats, man.
I'm a deacon. Thank you. And I'm also a deacon, an ordained deacon in the Anglican Church in the Diocese of Trinidad and Tobago, where I serve at the parish of St. Mary. So sometimes people ask, how can you be a firefighter and a deacon? Quite honestly, your work and your spiritual life are supposed to be who you are every day. So I enjoy my life, I enjoy my spirituality, and I don't hide it from anybody. I also part of the fire service chaplain team. I'm actually an assistant chaplain at the fire service. I also work a lot with youth. So I work with youth in church. I'm also one of the chaplains at the St. Mary's Children's. I'm an assistant to the chaplain at the St. Mary's Children's Home, and I'm also one of the chaplains at Bishop Anstey Trinity Colleges. So it's a lot of Akil, but we make it look simple.
I know you for so long, and I know you have all these things added here, right? But let me say again, congratulations on 12 years in the fire service,
Thank you,
the
thank
FS.
you.
I know it hasn't been an easy road all the time, and I know you love what you do. So you had to love what you do for being a firefighter, plus an ordained deacon, and you're a chaplain, assistant chaplain in the fire services too. So you're just
Yes,
taking your spirituality all over the place.
yes. I do believe that my spirituality is a part of my calling. So that wherever we go, you are Christianity is a way of life. So I am a firefighter, but before I became a firefighter, I'm a child of God. And that doesn't say I'm perfect. It doesn't mean I'm free from problems or I'm not a sinner. But it says to me that, hey, Mark, hear what you acknowledge the fact that you are continuously a work in progress, and you also have the opportunity to view persons as such. So I don't ever want to adopt the a rich mentality. Rather, I'm always a work in progress and let God take me wherever He wants me to.
So you spoke about community work, right? Because you
Yes,
spoke about you're the assistant chaplain at Bishop Anstey Trinity College East,
yes,
also the St. Mary's Children's Home,
yes.
and you're a firefighter and a deacon in church. Where do you find time to do all this? How do you manage your time? Because it seems like your plate full and your bucket overflowing here.
What I think is that I one of the greatest sacrifices you make with all of this is self. And you do realize that. You find it difficult at times to have that personal life. Who is Mark Haynes and what does Mark do? Now, I love, which I didn't mention just now, I love the sea. I cannot swim, but I love the sea. I love kayaking. I love any hikes that lead me to the beach. I love water. I love Tree Pools, one of my favorite places and hikes to go to. I love Tururi Falls. I love these things. And I do believe that you make time for God, make time and you do what you love to do. So for example, one of the sacrifices that has over the years affected me would have been my health. Akil, you know, when you met me how much years ago, I was skinny and all of that. And then I started buying the shirts with the hump, Akil. So
But I with you. I with you there. But just know the
so
truth. I didn't get rid of that shoot. Those shoes.
that's what I'm trying to do as well, to get rid of those shirts and get myself back in shape. And again, it's a journey. That's the greatest sacrifice that you tend to make when you have these so many things going on, that you tend to forget at times, hey, I have this to do as well. I have to see about this for myself, for my health and my well-being. And these things you look forward to. So God knows West, and I try. I put it to God. Sometimes it's not the easiest of things to do, but I put it in God's hands.
So what got you involved in community work?
Growing up, and well, you I'm persons who don't know. Aki will know me from church, the Anglican church, and growing up, I remember at 16, I can remember clearly, there was a call by one of the ladies in church. Now, I'm going to be very frank. When I was a teenager, I was a typical teenager. My parents forced me to go to church. They pushed me to go to church. I did not see the need. And for some reason, that Sunday when I was in church, I remember Miss Nelsia Edwards, a former principal of mine while I was in primary school. She made a call for persons who are interested in forming a youth group. And I saw something that's at 16, and I was like, wait, I could get to interact with people my age, and I could get to know about church more, but in a fun manner. So I was one of, I believe it was 7 or 8 of us who came together that day to form the then youth group. And I never turned back from there. I grew from just being in the youth group. I tried the choir for a little while, Hakil. It didn't work. Um,
We
some
all been
things,
there. We all been there.
yeah, the choir didn't work. And I continued and I keep dipping my toes in different things. And this is where the importance, where I learned about mentorship. There was a particular lady in the church, God rest her soul, Mrs. Claire Stout. She, among others, but I remember her, she approaching me. I was just at the age of 18 if I wanted to be a lay minister. And I was like, but I old people thing. She said, no, you could do it young. And everybody who was training with me dropped out of that program besides me. And I was excited and disappointed. So the program got put off for a little while. And when I was 21, the opportunity came again. I said, all right, Lord, you give me this opportunity, let's do it. And I got licensed as a lay minister. And over the years, I got exposed to the radio ministry. So I am also one of the hosts on the Anglican radio program. In some aspects, I'm the coordinator, if you want to put it like that now as well, of a radio program that we have. I wouldn't call it station because we on the program right now as
No,
well.
no, no. No, no,
But,
no. Call the name of the program
but
and the station.
yeah, because
And when is it? So people could tune in.
yes, so the program is the Anglican Voice radio program, and it airs every Sunday evening now at 7:30 p.m. on I-95.5 FM. And but when I started with Deacon Finley. He has also since transitioned.
Yeah.
He used to call me for the AM band. Akil, if you know the AM band,
Yeah,
I
16.
like this man calling me to go on radio, and the radio program. Now, this is the funny part about it. My father used to give me problems to borrow the car, but for church things, he used to lend me. So Akila said, this
Ease.
man used to give me problems. Again, I wanted to be like any other teenager. And then this man used to give me the car to go on radio in the middle of the night. My car go online, my car go parties, my
In the
car,
middle of the
he
night.
brought me up strict.
You're gonna serve
He
God.
gave me a car
You're
in the middle of
serving
the night
God, man.
to go on radio. Yeah. And there I was, and I encouraged other youths, and then I continued, and God continued to use me. And then I worked for a little while. I worked for at the Ministry of Legal Affairs, and eventually I worked for the church. And then the opportunity came once again for me to sign up for fire. And and if you when you're ready for that story, I'll be able to tell you that because even God took me on that journey as well.
Well, right now the floor is yours, no, sir. But first on first, you're given age, you're given different stages in your life. But how old
Yes.
are you? You never told us how old you are, so we can actually go with you on this
Anywhere.
journey to see how you have
So
developed into from a child to a young man, etc.
yes. So I am presently 41 years old, and
Right?
journey with us, my parents and my aunts, they would have never let me slip backslide.
Okay.
So as much as there were times I didn't want to, although my sister and my brother, you would get away with not doing this and not doing that. For some reason, my parents insisted, hey, you had to go. And then after a while, I began to get a little interest and I started going
You know
on
why?
my own
So
volition.
they saw something in you that you didn't see in yourself. That is what it is.
True.
They saw something
True.
in you that you didn't see in yourself. Because just like you, I
Yeah.
remember,
And
but
that is
unlike
what,
you, right? If you're unlike you, I like to go to church at
yes.
that age. I didn't have a, no, I used to leave, wake up early Sunday morning to go to church, 12, 13, 14, I'm going to church, right? So I didn't have that typical experience of many young persons who parents have to force them to church. And then I started
Yes.
playing pan in church. So was even more exciting than the avenue I took. I used to have to beg
And
sometimes. Oh,
that
yeah,
avenue.
I ready to go.
Yeah. And then after a while, I started to focus more and more on church as I got older. And Akil, I never, now when I look at it, I'm doing the same for the youths who would have been in my position back then, encouraging and mentoring them now to do what, to give them an opportunity of what I would have experienced back then. So it's good to see, and that's why I sometimes the youth, it takes a special type of patience. I wonder sometimes if I was that difficult to deal with, and I keep looking and I say, God, you know what purpose you have for me. I will continue trying my best, try do what I can do, and make magic happen. Make God's work happen.
Make magic happen. That's a nice way to look at it. Make magic happen. And you don't feel any
Yeah,
type of pressure coming on you that you don't have enough time in the day to do everything you need to do, anything like that. Everything just flows for you.
now,
Hello?
there is that issue. Yes. So there is that issue where I work. I am a. I work at the presently at the legal unit in the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Service, and the unit requires everything with time, and that aspect of time is important so that work is a very with dealing with time management. The church deals with time management, and you also still have to be available for a lot of persons who may need to call you at random times, who may be going through their thing, their situations. So it gives an opportunity for yourself to grow in the process and learn. What I tend to do is now, what also was not mentioned, I am also, our parish, we have a very active YouTube channel where we
Okay.
produce church services every day. So that this came as a response in COVID for us to answer or to reach out to persons. Because remember, during COVID, Akil, you had no church, had no place to live, and none of these things. So we had to figure out how to reach members of the congregation. Sending voice notes was filling up people's phones, so we could not abuse that system. So we eventually started the video, and over the period of time, I also learned some aspects of video editing, some basic graphic design, which is also part of what I do on in my schedule as well too. So, as I said, part of the entire thing is sacrifice of your personal time.
And I was just going to ask you, what do you think you have given up to do God's work?
Yes. So when I started training for ordination, about a year before that, I had, with some friends, had started a company which did tours and all these things.
I remember that.
As the company now started to grow, I got the call for training for ordination. And that probably was one of the most difficult decisions I had to make. Not because I did not want to follow God, but this was also something which would have brought me stability financially as a retirement plan. But I did not have the time, and my colleagues, my business partners also did not have the full time for us to all divide and focus on the business. So when the ordination training it started and COVID came into play and everything came down, tours were locked down, beaches were locked down, all of the public gatherings were limited, and we made a decision to close the company. I don't
Okay.
regret it in that I learned from it, and I don't believe the door is closed at this time because I have seen God use experiences to take me to where I am. So maybe at that time you were saying, hold on, not yet. We will get you, I'll get you through it. And when I look at it, I see many instances in my life where God has done just that.
Amen to that.
My story with how I ended up in the fire service is an interesting one. So I was working at the Anglican diocesan office, and while working there, one of my friends wanted to sign up for fire. I told her I'm not interested. What I go in there for? She said, just come and keep her company. I said, you know what? If I go in there with you, I will work on my documents and I will sign up one time. Over that period of time, we spent about 3 hours in a line to get from outside to inside. And then when it got inside, it was about the next 2 hours to get to the front of the line. And when I got through, unfortunately, she did not get through. But I saw it as well as God directing my life into another path. Because during the period of my time as a firefighter, I was able to use a lot of the skills that I learned in church in my job.
Very good.
So when I was moved from being on the lines of fighting fire, it was because the chief had heard me on the radio as a guest, and he heard that I had some experience. And then, of course, he pulled my file and saw that I had an experience with writing and all of these things. So I ended up in the communications unit. And while in the communications unit, I ended up in the chief fire officer's office for a number of years. And then over the past few years, I've been between the chief's office, deputy's office, public relations office, and legal office. So I've had a series of experiences, as well as through the chaplain team and the then chaplain officer Samson, now retired. They would have also assisted, in addition to my church, they would have also lent to that spiritual side. So this is why I am very confident when I say Christianity is a lifestyle, and we just have to trust God and trust the process. Because God tends to use a lot of what we learned in church as youth in our adult life as mentors ourselves.
So, interesting story of how you joined. Because God used
Yeah,
somebody to get you there. It was like
exactly.
Moses taking the Egyptians out, but not going forward. She carried you to there, and that was the end of her journey with you. And you
Yes.
went ahead. And if you didn't decide, she said, just keep her company. And that's God getting you there, though. Just come and keep my
Yes.
company. And you say, okay, I'll come and keep your company. And something just told you, since you're going to work with the documents one time, where the sense going and certain thing,
Exactly.
and you work with the documents, and
Was
that's where you're
properly
supposed to be.
assigned. Yes. Yes.
Because he put you on the front line because everybody has to start there. And then he moved you around because they saw your gift in you. Just from the
Yes.
same Anglican voice. By speaking about
Yes.
God's work, the head heard you. And then from hearing you, he decided, hey, who's this person? Let me go and do some more research on Mr. Haynes. And he saw the
Yes.
potential that you had in other things. He brought you into communications, his office, PR, legal, back and forth, because they see the ability that you have. And this wasn't done just like that. Based on everything you said, you all don't believe everything. This happened just by that. It's God
Yes.
working with you.
Yes.
For,
I believe
for
God will keep us out.
Yeah, and I remember Miles Monroe in one of his presentations said, when we find the first thing God gives us is work as man, right? In the garden, he put Adam to
Yes.
work, and work is not your job.
No.
Work is what you do as your calling. Because when you do your calling, you don't feel you don't work. You don't feel like you're putting too much effort into it and it's tired out all the time. You feel a love for it to go out there. So your job is your job, but your work is God's work that you're
Yes.
doing. So what I will ask you,
Exactly.
if you can, is the for those who may not know, tell them what the St. Mary's Children's Home is and how what changes that you have seen over the years you were there, how you impacted, because it's this. Tell us what the Children's Home is first, and then I'll continue with the question I want to ask.
Okay. Nice. So the St. Mary's Children's Home was originally established in the 1800s as an institution for children of indentured laborers who would have died on their way here or for some reason or the other. And over the years, because of its proximity where it is to the church, I don't have the history of how exactly the church would have taken that role and incorporated it with the church as itself.
No problem.
So over the years, it would have been transformed from the St. Mary's orphanage to the now St. Mary's Children's Home, which is one of the homes that the Anglican Church has. The second being the Mothers Union Children's Home in San Fernando. But the St. Mary's Children's Home is located in Tacarigua on the Eastern Main Road, right opposite St. Mary's Anglican Church, in the vicinity of what is known as the Etihad Savannah.
You give me a piece of history
They
there.
house
I
the
didn't know
children.
about.
Yeah, that's how it started. And when over the years we would have had a number of persons in society who would have been success stories. One of them, I believe, would have been the late DeFosto, and several persons would have been in the police band. Several persons would have been lawyers. Several persons would have left as doctors, and they would have led and been very accomplished in their later life. Spirituality and the church plays a major role in the spiritual life of the home. So the chaplain, who is presently Reverend Beverly Hoyt, she is the present chaplain at the home. So she oversees all the spiritual directions that the children will go. There was a period of time before Reverend Hoyt came in when the church had a project. That was one of my first projects actually when being ordained. A group of us went over to the home to do Sunday school. And over that period of time, what would have happened, I was green. So they did not know me, I did not know them. And I did not know how to deal with children who's had varied situations in their pasts. Over this period of time, I always say they taught me how to teach them. And over the period, you learned, for example, they need consistency because there are a lot of women visiting them, but not a lot of men visiting. And there are other men who, because there are two programs that the church does, one is directly with the parish, and one is more of a diocesan approach. I deal more with the one that's a parish approach, with the younger ones. And you see that eventually they open up. There are moments they drive you crazy, like any children would. But there are moments when you do feel that love and that attention, and when you're getting through to them. And you realize that consistency and that aspect of your consistency with them gains their trust. And simple things of how you can't speak or get angry with them like you would normally with others. You do have to lay down the golden rules sometimes, and you have to read the riot act from time to time. But generally, you treat them with love. And these children in many instances, they just want that parent figure, or they just want their parents and whatever situations that would have caused them to be there. And some of them do have their parents, but because of certain legal issues with the courts, the home is a ward for them to live and grow and interact and all of these things as well. And the home, though a part of the church, it is heavily, a lot of the latest of changes has been government run, so that a lot of the positions are service commission positions and the like for the caretakers, etc., 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 that exist there.
You would have touched on by your explanation of what the American home is, what you all do, touch on the first so many questions I had, especially with the consistency, right? So let me ask you this. You said you were green.
Yes.
Your time
Yes.
being at the St. Mary's Children's Home, would you say that helped you become a better version of Mark? That when you started, and Mark as an individual one, Mark as a reverend too, and Mark the individual spiritual Mark?
Yes. Definite with all three, it helps. So Mark as an individual, it helps me to dig deep within and explore myself in terms of how I interact with persons. Now, I say this specifically because you can be Christian, but in your Christianity, you can lack that interactive skill of dealing with others. It's
Okay.
not a condemnation or a judgment on your faith, but it is a reality that not everybody have that people skill. So I had to realize that although I'm a people's person in some regards, when coming to deal with children, I had to forget about what I thought I knew and focus now on the children as to what I think I can do better. In addition to this, the spiritual part, it forced me to go now and look to myself and say, here's what. Mark, you're not preaching to adults, and in preaching to children who may have special requirements in terms of how you tailor your message. So it forced me on a spiritual level as a deacon to transform myself further and relay my message, the messages of God, and just allow God to make me flexible, make me fluid to reach to the children. And even that affected me professionally because we all know everybody has that aspect where in the workplace there are sometimes, to put it mildly, people is getting this.
Yes.
And I couldn't afford for that to affect my spiritual life and how I affect church, how I do these things. So and I continue to say it's a work in progress, and they continue to use me as well.
Wow. You see, what this program is about, why I started this program, right? I see it as a way to help men become the better versions of them, the best version of themselves, right? And that's why I asked you that
Yeah.
question there, because you said it started off green. And even with everything from in church, you went to church green, and then you joined the youth group, so that's a different change. Then at 16 in youth
Yes.
group, 18 lay minister, it didn't happen then, 21 it happened. and then you haven't looked back since. And then the children's home was a whole different ball game for you, for want of a better word, because it's something different. Because you said you went in green, and you had to transform yourself basically to deal with them. And you said what you said was what you think you can do is that what you understand. It's not what you know or what you know you can do. It's what you think you can do because to better the lives of the children. So you get that
That is
mind shift there. All right, and you also said that you had to forget in order to you had to transform self further. You asked God to help you transform yourself further. And you ask him to make you become a little more fluid so you'll be able to deal with them. And from that, you are able to carry the skills that you learned there into the workplace. Because I'm sure the children taught you patience, a lot of patience,
yes. Oh,
right?
yes.
And then, uh,
And that, go ahead, sorry. Apologies. Go ahead, sorry.
no problem. I said, I'm sure the children taught you patience. And that dealing with a child is a whole different level of patience. And then dealing with these children who, as you said, may not have parents who are in the home because of legal system, etc. They they would deal with a different type of emotion coming from them. So you have to deal with a different type of patience level coming from them. So that helps you transform into a better human. In addition to you said, since COVID, you transform again because you start doing the video editing, the YouTube program for your church,
YouTube. Amen.
and or and
Yes.
also the graphic design. So when we listen to you, we see that where Mark started off down here, you have transformed you keep on transforming to the best version of yourself. And every time you think you're complete, you shed skin and go again. And that could only be contributed
Yes.
to one, first and foremost, God, and two, your willingness to listen to Him.
Yes. No,
So, what
sometimes I
advice?
feel
Yeah, go ahead,
that
sorry. Yeah, go
sometimes
ahead.
that to listen it hard enough. Because sometimes you want to listen, but it's hard because you want to do your own thing and you want to live your life how you want to live your life.
Yeah.
Um but so sometimes letting go and let God is difficult. But that is the only way to move forward.
So, you touched
Let
on
God
what I was
continue
going to
to
ask.
sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, because
Let God
sometimes
continue to.
because as you summarize it there, I only now realized that in each instance, God broke me from the norm and reformed me. And then he broke me again and then reformed me. And then he
Yeah.
broke me again and reformed me. And there's a lot of breaking and putting things in place and adjusting the growth. And also I would have picked up as well. And I think this is part of the aim for success. And I don't think we ever fully reach success. We continuously pursue success. And that
But it's
depends on our
not a
definition.
destination. It's not a destination,
It
it's a
is
way of life.
nothing, yes. And in order to be successful, you have to be willing to listen. And there would have been a lot of adults who would have placed that mentorship. And it is always important for us to focus on that mentorship, focus on that change, focus on let God transform us. And the hardest part is giving up what we want for God to do His thing.
You spoke about mentorship, and that was and you walked right
Yes.
into my other question for you. On this journey, do you have a mentor, or I know you may have more than one and at different stages, but who has been instrumental in your life as a mentor to help you along this journey, this 20 plus years? journey of service because it's only service you're doing. Only service because you gave up what you wanted to do, which was a life of service because your tour business was service and you gave that up for another life of service. So who you say would be your mentor and how have they impacted your life and made this journey easier for you?
There are a number of persons who automatically come to mind. One, or I could say, well, yeah, they are one because my parents,
All right,
they would have,
all right, yeah, one.
my parents were not wealthy with us growing up. So they taught me humility. I did not have the brands and all of those things, but they taught me the value of respecting yourself, respecting family. And my dad taught me through his actions how to love a woman.
All right,
And that loving a woman is not just buying expensive gifts. Loving a woman is not just buying or trying to be the biggest macho man, but being there and providing however you can. And as I grew up, they also taught me the value of family. I would have had several persons who are now deceased. One I would like to make a special mention of, that's my aunt Audrey. She would have made sure, and that is one of the persons I think about when who had passed before I became a deacon, who would have made sure, who would have been front and center at my ordination. And I am one who a lot of people may think marking everything, and he may have the world of friends, but I also believe in a small circle. Not that I don't like people, but I believe that I rather have a small group of a core group of friends who can speak success into you, who can speak positivity into you, and associate yourself with persons who are strong in their faith in God, as well as they are focused, business minded, they are humble, they are kind, and there is a saying, if you show me five of your friends, you will be the sixth. So if you are who you are around, and my parents taught me that at a very young age. So I have a lot of friends who, so I have a small circle of friends, but I call them a lot because they are always there for me. And I really thank God for them. You all, because you are one of those persons I would have known from young, and persons who most of my friends are persons I know from growing up in church. And it's not a matter of, oh, he only talk in church and this and that. But these are friends who I would have partied with. These are friends I would have gone traveled with. These are friends I would have gone on hikes with. These are friends who we would have grieved together for the loss of friends, of similar friends and loved ones. And that friendship holds strong. So in addition to the mentors, of course, my priest, he shaped me in so many ways as well. Because when I met him initially, I was a stubborn teenager, and now I see him and I respect the fact that he had a real patience with me. Because, and that's I speaking about here, Dr. Anderson Maxwell, Reverend Dr. Anderson Maxwell. He had real patience with me because I remember it had times when I wanted to do my own thing. I walk out on the youth group because I couldn't get my way. I didn't serve times because I couldn't do certain things, and but he kept, just like my dad. He led by example, and there are lots of men. I remember There are a lot of men in the church, and this is why it hurts not to see a lot of men in the church anymore, Akil. Where the men in the church would have been there, the men in the church would have been, they would have taught me how to stand properly and confidently at the altar, how to project my voice, how to stop fidgeting. And all these things are influences that would have taught me confidence in myself. And I think that mentorship is absolutely needed in our society today.
You touched that, and I agree with you because the mentors that you had and that you have, and it's strange though, mentors, men in that, and the impact when you spoke about your family, your parents, and you single out your father because he taught you through his actions. He didn't just say, he taught you through his actions the value of
Yes,
family, how to love a woman, and
yes,
how to with you. He taught you with you that he didn't give up on you. He saw something in you that you would not have seen
yes,
yourself, and he was behind you to pursue it. And to this
yes.
day, he still supports you.
And yes, and my father, he had, my parents got married young. My dad got married on his 23rd birthday. My mom was 20. And they, at a young age, they had three children. And my mom was self employed, and my dad was working for the government. Akil, you work for the government. You know government ain't paying much. But they
Right?
made ends meet, and they did what they had to do to provide for us.
You spoke about that your father, a great man to you, and he set that example for you that you are setting for others because you don't have no child. You have any children of your own?
Not as yet.
You don't
I
have
do
children
still
of
have
your
plans to
own.
get married and have children of my own.
Well, you're 41, your father passed you a long time. I'm sure you asking for your grandchildren. Because my father always asks all the time. Every time it's a birthday, every time it's something for grandchildren.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
he taught you well. He was that mentor in your life, a great example to you. Then you went on to Father Maxwell. Maxwell, right, Father? Doctor, yes,
Yes.
Father Maxwell.
Yes.
And he stuck with you through thick and thin, the rebellious Mark. He was patient with you, took his time, and he helped you into the Mark you are today. And the men in church. And it's true. Because I remember back in the days, the men used to take a hold of the other men. So the men's society used to take a hold of the men
Yes.
in church, and the women, the mothers union used to take a hold of the women. And when you look at church now, there's a lack of men in church. And you spoke about how that hurts you because that's where you develop and you remember in your phase growing up how impactful they were in your life. And with the youths that in your church you can't do it alone, and you would love to see more men doing the same, being able to go and give back and help
Yes.
men become the best version of themselves, be men. Because how they impacted you, you want
Yes.
others to experience the same type of fun. And you're doing a great job so far with all these things you're doing here. I don't want to go back and list it, but especially the St. Mary's Children's Home and Trinity College Bishops East, right? Because I know as a reverend, it's not just going and talk about God, talk about God, talk about God, and people will say they're fed up because that's all they're coming to do. Sometimes you have to counsel. Sometimes you go into a
Yes.
situation you didn't go to do that today, especially with how the school system is now and the children know because you said you don't think you was that miserable when you were growing up. So you have to counsel them. So all the work that the men and your mentors would have done and your aunt would be so proud of you today if she saw the type of man that you have become and the work that you are doing. You mentioned something before.
Thank you.
I just want to go back to that. before we start to wrap up is how does
Sure.
someone get involved? Because they said there are two types of police and married children home. How do people get involved in that type of service?
Right. So you can get involved in two ways. One is through the parish, where the church, you go and you work with the church, which is the method I always recommend because you get that spiritual covering for yourself, as well as you go in with a positive spirit of Christ to the children. So that's the first aspect that you can consider. And then there are on their website, I can't recall the website offhand, but if you Google St. Mary's Children's Home, you'll get the website will come up. And you can apply because of course you are dealing with children. And you can apply to be or to volunteer for your services, whether it is to help them with uh, mentorship, whether it is whatever you want to offer, you indicate that in the form. And they will contact you and guide you as to the next steps from there as well.
Why I decided to ask this because there may be people listening who would like to assist and don't know how, or would like to share their time
Sure.
and don't know how. This is a great aspect for them to come in. Dr. Eric Williams said the future of our nation is in the book bags of our children,
Yes,
and
yes.
here
Now it's
you
important
have a
because the home
uh
needs the home.
hello,
Sorry.
yes, the home. You cut off a
Yes, I'm
little
here.
bit.
I'm
You said
here,
the home.
you.
You said it's important because the home needs what?
Yes. So
Mark?
the home needs.
Right.
Yes. So the home needs. You hearing me? You still hearing me?
Yeah, loud and clear, loud and clear.
Yes. Right. So the home needs financial assistance because it is expensive. They will get subventions from the government, but it is not always enough. So they will need assistance. For example, they are presently raising funds to purchase a new bus. This bus takes the children to school and their various activities. They also need sponsorship for things such as extracurricular activities. They may need extra lessons and all of these things, as well as positive role models. You cannot speak enough about being a positive role model in the life of the children. You can't. You can't. That is one of the most crucial needs that the children would have.
So you also heard it here from Mark. If you want to give of your time, you could go to the parish. He said that's the best way because you'll get the spiritual covering there. In addition, you'll be working alongside the church that they would vet you and everything one time, and you're going there with guidance on how to do what you're going to do, or you can go through the website where you apply to become a volunteer, any service you want to do, and they would contact you based on that. And as you rightfully said, the home would need funding, some financial assistance, or in any other way. And financial assistance because they're trying to get a new bus and bus a vehicle to take the children to and from church, to and from school, to and from various places that they need to go. And if anyone out there willing to donate a bus or funds to donate a bus, you can contact Mark, contact the St. Mary's Children Home, contact the St. Mary's Anglican Church, and let's see what we can do. They need money for extracurricular
Of
activities,
course.
and they also need positive role models. As Mark said earlier on, they need consistency. I know with anything in life, consistency is key. They don't need to see one person today and then nobody else shows up for them until 3 months or 4 months down the line. because whatever impact you would have made, you'll have to come and start over. So let's help Mark continue to do his work by going out there and helping him. We volunteer at the home. We could get another DeFosto, the mighty DeFosto himself, who was a Calypsonian. He was a Calypso monarch of this country, and yes, he was from the St. Mary's Children's Home, right? And Mark gave us some
Yes.
history of the St. Mary's Children's Home, where it started. And it started in the 80s for
Yes.
the children of the indentured laborers who would have lost their parents on the journey to Trinidad or while here. So these children now lost
Yes.
their parents, there's water state, for different reasons they are there, and they need our assistance. Mark, you are a
Yes.
man of
Yes.
many resources, and I'm sure you didn't know all those things you were capable of in that short space of time, because I don't know where you're finding time to do all this in a day, right? Because what
And I found time today to be here as well too.
exactly,
So, and can I just
exactly.
mention the website? The
Sure.
website is the website for the home is stmarystt.org.
What is it?
stmarystt.org.
St. Mary's, MARYS, right? CT.org. Right.
St.
STMARYS
Mary's TT.org.
dot org. Great. So you have to go onto the website,
That's all.
see what they have to offer,
Yes.
see what how you can assist. So Mark, I just want to say thank you very much for joining us on Men-Tal-k 2. As I was saying, you're a deacon, you're a firefighter, you're a member of I'm pretty correctly, you're a member of the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services, an arm of the Defense Force of Trinidad and Tobago. You are, as you started off saying, you're an East boy, you're a community person, you are the assistant chaplain at the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services. You're also the assistant chaplain at the St. Mary's Children's Home, and also the assistant chaplain of Bishop Anstey Trinity College East, right? Or you're the chaplain there.
Yes. Well, one of the chaplains, but yes, you can say assistant chaplains because
Right, so
Father
you're
Maxwell will be the main chaplain.
right, because that school falls within the parish, and he's the
Yes.
head of the
So
parish.
it's a
Right.
lot.
Right, and you work with the youth
Yes, it
on a
is.
regular basis. So what you didn't notice from yourself is that
Yes.
every
Yeah.
time you take one step, you were reinvented. You shed some skin to go forward. And all this was done by the grace of God, who you gave praise for all the time, because you said it could not have happened on your own. So that's
Yes.
the word Mark left us with today, is that nothing is impossible with God. And everything you do, trust and believe in the process, because he said that he became a firefighter by not listening to himself, but a friend got him to come along and he decided, I'll just tag along, and something tell him take his stuff. So he was led where God wanted to go, and he listened. So Mark, thank you very much for coming and share with us not what you do, what we got here is not what you do, is how you became and how you continue to become the best version of yourself. So I just want to say thank you very much, and we look forward to having you again if anytime you're ready to come on Men-Tal-k 2. Thank you very much, Mark.
Anytime. Thank you for having me, and I will take up that invitation whenever you're ready. God
Thank you
bless
very
and
much,
thank
Mark.
you.
Take care.
You too.